Dude, imagine being so legendary in Hollywood that you win Oscars, break box offices, scare directors, and then one day you just disappear into the wilderness like some ancient warrior walking off into the trees. That's Russell Crowe. And the story behind why he walked away, man, it's wilder than any movie he ever made. Bro, listen to this, man. Russell Crowe is one of those guys who went through the insane Hollywood machine, dominated it like a straight-up gladiator, then just walked away from the whole damn thing to find peace. And the way it happened is wild. This dude spent years grinding in LA, barely seeing his parents, and instead of buying some luxury penthouse like every other celebrity, he bought 100 acres of raw bushland so his mom and dad could start fresh. And that says everything about the guy. Back in the early days, he exploded onto the scene with Romper. Stomper, so intense the cops actually watched him in real life. Then came LA Confidential, Gladiator, A Beautiful Mind, and he was like a grenade with the pin-pulled man, throwing rubber swords into the ocean, rewriting scenes at 3 a.m., pushing himself through insane heat and brutal training because he refused to fake anything, and that raw volcanic energy took him to Brando-level stardom. But at the same time, it was tearing his life apart. Bar fights, hotel incidents, tabloid storms, relationships that blew up in the spotlight, and he even admitted he felt like a gladiator without a shield. Yet behind all the chaos, there was this insanely soft, hidden version of him, secretly paying for crew members, kids' cancer treatments, calming himself at night playing Hendrix replicas, trying to survive the emotional weight of being Russell Crowe. Then one day in 2018, after decades of nonstop pressure, he realized his sons were growing up in hotels and didn't know soil, so he sold half his Hollywood life, armor, awards, movie props in what he called cleansing by fire, and moved full-time to this massive farm 350 miles north of Sydney, where he now wakes up at 5 a.m. feeding animals, fixing fences in old flannel shirts, recording music in a barn, shooting films locally with small crews, making whiskey stored in his machinery shed, and spending evenings on the veranda playing guitar with his kids under a strict no-phone rule. And while people thought he retired, he actually reinvented himself, built a free film school in his childhood home for underprivileged kids, funded indigenous language preservation, made his rugby players do community service, helped neighbors during floods with his bulldozer, and created this whole new legacy based on real life instead of Hollywood illusions. When a young actor asked him about aging, he said, "Wrinkles are life subtitles and fame is just a rental car, something you eventually return." And now his proudest moments aren't Oscars, but helping deliver a breech calf after 3 nights without sleep. So, yeah, man, Russell Crowe is one of the rare dudes who didn't get eaten by Hollywood. He walked away peacefully, quietly, like a warrior, laying down his shield, choosing green earth over red carpets, choosing real conversations over cameras, and proving that sometimes the greatest victory is just stepping out of the spotlight and breathing again. Listen, the thing about Russell Crowe that people don't really understand is that this dude wasn't just an actor. He was a whole storm system moving through Hollywood, a force of nature that studios couldn't control even when they tried. Because while everyone else was chasing billboards, red carpets, and Instagram validation, Russell was fighting his own battles. Family distance, pressure, rage, and the weird loneliness that comes with being famous in a way that doesn't feel human anymore. So when he talked about not seeing his parents for almost a decade, man, that hits deep. Because instead of putting them in some luxury apartment or hiring assistants to manage the situation, he buys them 100 acres of remote bushland like he's relocating his entire emotional foundation, which is something only a guy with old school family DNA does. And when you look at his career, it's insane. He goes from scaring the hell out of audiences in Romper Stomper to stealing scenes in LA Confidential to becoming Maximus, the guy everyone quotes in bars and gyms. But the real story isn't the fame, it's what it cost him. Because Crowe's rise wasn't polished or controlled, it was messy, primal, ND loud, so loud it followed him into real life, where he ended up in brawls, hotel confrontations, chaotic relationships, and moments where he admitted he didn't even recognize himself anymore. And yet deep in that chaos was a totally different human. Someone who spent his own money on strangers' medical bills, someone who played guitar to keep his mind from breaking, someone who felt things too deeply, and eventually someone who said, "Screw it, I'm going off grid. I'm raising my kids around soil and storms and animals instead of camera flashes." So he sells half his Hollywood life, moves to the farm full-time, builds barns, clears roads for flood victims with his bulldozer, feeds alpacas at dawn, teaches locals filmmaking, preserves indigenous languages, runs a rugby team that gives back to the community, and basically reinvents what success even means, because now he says real legacy isn't tea Oscars or interviews, it's the trees his sons planted, the kids his film school lifts up, the moments of peace he earned after decades of battle. And honestly, man, when you hear him talk about wrinkles being life subtitles or fame being a rental car, it hits you that Russell Crowe didn't escape Hollywood. He outgrew it. Like a warrior who finally realized the biggest fight is learning to live quietly with purpose, with family, with real earth under your feet.